Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Namaskar. I Devarshi Modi from the Department of English, School of Social Science and Humanities. Dear friends, as we are dealing with the study of poetry paper from the third year BA, the syllabus of Bachelors of Arts, we have looked at various forms of poetry. We also talked about the objective and the subjective poetry. We have gone through in the previous lecture in detail what is ballad, the types of the ballads. We have also seen various definitions of poetry. Moving further with the same, today we will going to see the epic, one of the major forms of poetry, one of the oldest forms of poetry. While it comes to the matter of the epic, we always recall the famous epic Ramayana, Mahabharat, Paradise Lost, Odyssey, and the Iliad. It's been very interesting for all of us to hear the stories of this epic. So it is very important for us to know the form of the epic in detail, the structure of the epic, various features of the epic, the characteristics of the epic, and the types of the epic. Dear friends, the word epic is derived from the Greek word epikos, which means poetic story. Epic is a long narrative poem on the exploits of great heroes told in grand and elevated style. Traditional or primary epics combine myth, legend, folk tales, and history, and are thus part of nation's cultural history. This developed form an oral history or oral tradition. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, the Indian Ramayana, which is attributed to the Valmiki, and Mahabharat, attributed to the Vyasa, and the Anglo-Saxon epic Beowulf, these all are the examples of the epics. Aristotle ranked the epic as second to the tragedy in importance. Let us see few of the features of the epic. Epic is a long piece of work, usually running into several books. Homer's epic run into 24 books and Paradise Lost consists of 12 books. The Mahabharata is 10 times the length of the Iliad and Odyssey combined and 4 times that of the Ramayana. It consists of 1 lakh sloka and runs into the 18 per verse. The epic has a vast canvas for its setting. In the Odyssey, the action takes place across the Mediterranean basin. In the Paradise Lost, Milton uses the entire cosmos as his setting, earth, heaven, and the hell. In the Ramayana too, the sweep of the action is immense, ranging from the Ayodhya in the north, in the northern India, to the Sri Lanka. The action depicted in an epic is also on the gigantic scale, often involving supernatural deeds and the perilous journeys. The adventure of the Achilles and the Odysseus and the latter's long journey back to his home, the mighty war in the heaven and the Saturn's death to the newly created world, the wanderings of the banished Pandavas and the terrible war at the Kurukshetra, and the Ram's conquest across the country for Sita and his war against the forces of Ravana, are all examples of the magnificent scale of the action in an epic. The time of action in an epic is also on the larger scale. In Homer's epics, the action covers a period of more than 10 years. In the Indian epics, too, the period of time is long. In Paradise Lost, the story ranges from before the creation of the universe to the end of the world. The epic is centered on the hero who is of a great importance. In the Iliad, Achilles is the greatest of Greek warriors. In Milton's Paradise Lost, we see that Adam is the first man and is the representative of the entire human race. And in the Mahabharata, the Pandavas are the superhuman or the heroes who fight alongside the gods. An epic shows God and other supernatural beings taking part in the action. Homer makes use of the Olympian gods in his epics, while archangels, Christ, and Satan appears in the Paradise Lost. In the Indian epics, Krishna and the Ram are the incarnations of Vishnu, such as actions of deities, and the supernatural beings were called the machinery in the 18th century. Friends, as we have seen the features of the epic, now let us focus on the language that is being used in the epic. The language that is used in the epic is always elevated and formal, suit the grandeur of the theme. It is very mandatory for the epic writer to make sure that he uses or she uses the language which is grandeur in theme. Milton uses Latinate diction and complex syntaxes to narrate the story of the fallen angels and the fall of the man. In fact, while describing all the fallen angels and the description of the Satan, the description of the hell in the Paradise Lost has a lot of similes and the metaphors. The grand style of the epic poetry includes the uses of several classical allusions and the epic similes. In the Western literature, most of the writers have imitated Homer in terms of use of simile. An epic simile is a long simile, running into more than 20 lines at a time, in which the poet makes detailed comparison between the objects. Say for example, here as we can see on our screen, the very famous epic Paradise Lost begins with these words of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world and all our walk with loss of Eden till one greater man. Very interestingly, and it is one of again characteristics of the epic, that writers or the authors of the epic make sure that is generally represented in the beginning of the epic. So let us now focus on the epic conventions. The poet begins the work with the proposition, followed by an invocation to the muse. Every epic, as we have seen in the previous slide, the example of epic, how it begins, of man's first disobedience and the fruit of the forbidden tree, whose mortal taste. Milton prays to the goddess Muse to help him in writing this gigantic work that he has undertaken, the task of. In proposition, the author states his purpose or his theme or the argument in the epic in the beginning of the epic. In the invocation, the poet appeals and prays to the muse the goddess of learning, for invocation. The narration in epic is typically begins in the medias res. As I said, it begins in the middle of the theme, or it starts with the theme of the epic. Cataloging of the important characters is again one of the major conventions that we find in the epic. We might have seen, or you all will going to learn very soon in the Paradise Lost, that Milton has jotted down all the characters catalogically in detail. It also includes the use of the epithets. It contains long list called an epic catalog. It features long and the formal speeches. Again, I would like to quote here the speeches of Satan. Very confidently he described, I would prefer to rule in the hell rather to serve in the heaven. Such descriptions of the great speeches we always find in the epic. Epic also shows divine interventions in the human affair. Features of heroes that embody the values of civilization, supernatural elements, often features the tragic hero's descent into the underworld or the hell. As we seen, the Satan and the fallen angels, or the disobedience of the God's command in the Paradise Lost by the Adam and the Eve. These are famous epic conventions. While we are talking about the epic convention, the features of the epic, it is very important that we must recall mock epic. It's one of the kinds of the epic. What is mock? Mock means mockery, to laugh at something. It is generally a parody of the serious epic. Mock epics are generally a parody of the serious epic. The intentions in the mock epic is comic and usually satirical. Poet makes sure that he or she makes satires on the people or the society in general. The intention in the mock epic is comic, usually satirical. The examples of the mock epics are there in front of us. Battle of the Frog and the Mice, which is parody of the Greek epic Iliad. How can we forget the Rape of the Lock by the Alexander Pope and the Macflecknoe by the Dryden? Friends, as we have seen today, various features of the epic, characteristics of the epic convention, the definition of the epic. Kindly focus on characteristics, features of the epic. I would like you to answer again in the comment box. Which one is considered as one of the oldest epic? What is mock epic? What is the epic convention? Or which are the epic conventions? Possibly, please list down some of the famous examples of classical epics from the classical languages like French, Latin, Sanskrit, Greek. That is all for today. We will going to meet next time very soon with another form of poetry. Till then, take care, keep learning. Thank you.